Many games, no matter how well balanced they are... No, I'm not doing this again. As this is the second, technically fourth part in this mini-series, I've gotten numerous comments about a lot of abilities in the Yakuza series. Now, some of the comments are very nice, and some were rather mean, but to say that the Yakuza series has some silly balancing apparently is an understatement. Now, of course, as I've said in those other videos, this doesn't make the franchise poorly designed or anything, but it's funny to look at some of the stuff that breaks the game, so let's take a gander. Up first, the biggest point that people made about broken abilities is that I neglected to mention Saijima's Herculean Spirit, an ability which prevents Saijima from flinching no matter what hits him, just so long as he is in heat mode. People also mentioned his counter specifically, but I already mentioned counterattack, so we'll talk about the super armor ability. In order to obtain it, you have to head into the The next one is not something that you can unlock, but it is something that I thought to mention anyway. It's a mechanic that was an unfortunate necessity in Yakuza 6, a handy tool in Kiwami 2 and Lost Judgment, and utterly broken in Judgment. I am, if you couldn't guess, talking about Extreme Heat / EX Boost. Now, it's a necessity in Yakuza 6 because you'd be a fool to not just spam it constantly, and in Kiwami 2 and Lost Judgment, it's balanced a bit better to the point where you could go the entire game without using it once, but similarly, you would be a fool to do that. In Judgment, however, it gives you some ridiculous buffs such as complete invincibility. I don't know why it does, but it does. Now, yes, I know you're encouraged to use it to tank an enemy's extreme heat attack or gunshots to avoid the impossibly annoying mortal wounds mechanic, hence the invincibility. The thing with the Judgment EX Boost though is that without upgrades it doesn't last all too long, but with upgrades you can do what I like to do, which is abuse the invincibility. Let me give you an example of me doing that.
No, I just think the iceberg letters are the best for that thing. Oh, hang on, sorry, my mum's calling. Hey mum. Yeah, I'm at home, are you getting groceries? Bread? Mum, I asked you to get that on the 9th of February this year.
Now beyond this, there's also the very powerful heat actions you can get from Extreme Heat / EX Boost. For example, one that I use all the time is the one in 6 where you just mash square and then get prompted with a quick time event that is the exact same every single time, so you can just do it without any hassle whatsoever. Now sometimes it does do the face punch thingy, which isn't as good, but in Judgment and Lost Judgment you're guaranteed to get what you want. By mashing triangle this time around, you can do one of 2 special heat actions depending on whether you're in Crane or Tiger. Snake has one too, but it's just not. Now the Tiger one does a shitload of damage, and in Lost Judgment you can charge attack each attack, thereby increasing the damage even further. The only downside to it is that it only hits one enemy, but that's where the Crane one comes in. In both of the games, whenever I start a story encounter that has several enemies, I always just swap to Crane and do this heat action straight away. It's free damage and it will specifically target the enemy with the most health as one of the 3 victims so long as they're in range, meaning that if there's a boss surrounded by some goons, you can usually kill 2 of them while simultaneously damaging the boss. Yagami has quite a few more heat actions that hit 3 enemies though. The mechanic of targeting the enemy with the highest health will still apply here, but these ones can be done by several different means. A particularly spammable one, at least in Judgment, is the reverse leapfrog heat action. In Judgment, you can just run over the front of an enemy and then immediately jump back over him, and boom, that's probably like 3 kills right there for free. In Lost Judgment, you can't do the same cheese, sadly, and a lot of the time you try to jump over an enemy's back, they'll just teleport to face the other direction.
Hello, me from the edit. Turns out this is just a glitch with Crane, and whenever you do it with Tiger, Boxing, or Snake, it works completely fine. I don't know why, but I did it once in Crane and just assumed it doesn't work anymore. Screw you, RGG Studio, I hate you.
As this is an Ishin, bosses can't do anything about this, so you can also do it over them, even though whenever you try to leapfrog a tough enemy, they'll throw you across the planet. Another thing I like to spam throughout the entirety of Judgment in particular was the wall jump finisher. When I say spam, I mean you can just do this over and over again. I mean, what are they going to do, block it? Okay, I'll just do it again. Try and solve me, you punk slut. Now, to keep up with the theme of speed, Yakuza 6 has the dropkick attack you can do by pressing the heavy attack button after running. Maybe it's just a thing with the AI not reacting in time or something, but like, no one does anything about this. There's also the forward evade strike in 6 where you can just mash it over and over and over and over and over again against the bosses, and once again, they just sort of give up and hope that you feel sorry for them or some shit so that you'll stop obliterating their existence. What's even better about this is that enemies will tend to get stunned when you smack them against a wall, so you could do some follow-up attacks or do that special wall stun heat action that the game lets you do. Now, the only minor downside to these 2 attacks is that the drop kick requires you to run for a certain amount of time, so sometimes you might mess it up, or the evade strike might sometimes make you evade in the wrong direction. But then if either of those things happen, you can just do it again because, like I said, the enemies have already exited to desktop and uninstalled the game. Another fun ability are Kiryu's bounding throws, specifically from Yakuza 5. Normally these things have always been handy as they essentially act as a double finisher, but can allow you to throw one enemy into another, dealing a bit of damage to them, knocking them over, or whatever. Now, I mentioned Yakuza 5 specifically because usually these throws of Kiryu's will consume heat, but not these ones. They will actually give Kiryu heat. To add to this, Kiryu is also completely invincible, I think maybe, so there's no real punishment to doing them. Again, I don't know why it's like that, but it is. And now to say something controversial, and that's that Shinadas are also good. They function the exact same way, and while they're slower and kind of weird looking, you can snap the enemy with your foot and grab them, allowing you to do some of Shinada's heat actions that deal insane damage, especially this one. So yeah, the grab finisher things from Yakuza 5 are an example of stuff they didn't really think too much about. Now, this one isn't unintended in the same way as the other things I've discussed, as this one is, I think, a bug. So, an ability called Max Crush from Kiwami is one of the first abilities you can unlock in the game that lets you charge up a grab attack while in the beast style, dealing a little bit of extra damage. Now, I never knew about this glitch whatsoever and completely ignored this ability because I thought it was shit, but as it turns out, for whatever reason, after you do the attack, your next heat action will deal a lot more extra damage. Unfortunately, it isn't any sort of Kiwami 2 levels of, oh my god, I just did 10 health bars of damage by accident, but it is pretty useful in larger enemy encounters where you can just do it on a weak enemy and then use a hit action on a stronger one, or especially useful against some of the early game bosses where you can just literally one-shot them. To give you a comparison of the damage with all of these same parameters besides the Max Crush buff, Essence of Sumo Slapping did about half a health bar of damage to Majima, but then with the buff, it did over an entire health bar. Now then, this doesn't seem too ridiculous until you remember that, oh right, this is one of the first things you can unlock, wow, okay. Now finally we have an ability that feels very poorly thought out. For the developers, I mean that in a bad way, but as is the case with the rest of the video, that's a good thing for the players. Ichiban's hero class in Yakuza Like a Dragon at level 16 unlocks the ability Peerless Resolve, which prevents Ichiban from dying once he reaches 0 health by healing him with a handful of HP. Now, not only do several RPGs have abilities exactly like this, but the Yakuza games typically have always had sacrifice stones which serve the exact same purpose. Except the problem lies in the fact that you can only ever do this once per battle in other RPGs, or in the Yakuza games, your stone will be deleted once it's been used. Peerless Resolve doesn't follow that at all. With the way the game is, if you die more than once in a battle, it's usually because you're fighting one of the really hard bosses, you're incredibly unlucky, or you just suck, so you won't often use it more than once. But even still, you can use it straight away with Ichiban, and then it will remain active all the way until you die, allowing you to just keep on using it every time to keep him alive, which you'll want to do because you can't swap him out, and Ichiban dying does mean game over. Now, if only Namba could get this goddamn ability. You are still absolutely free to comment other silly abilities that I haven't mentioned in the comment section, and don't say you forgot, I swear to god. But unless I can get enough really good abilities to discuss for another video, this one will likely be the final part. So thanks to all of you who did comment, even this dude who thought he was being so funny. Oh, hang on, I just realized that I never hit show more. I wonder what he's... Oh. Well, I can't end the video like that. Oh. Here, how about you watch this insanely sick clip of me in Modern Warfare 2?
Taking the lead.